On today's episode, I'm going to share with you how I maintain control throughout the design, plan, and price process pre-construction. Enjoy. How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name's Max, I'm your host. I'm the ambitious founder of EliteBusinessAdvisory.com, and where I specialise in business coaching for general contractors and builders. Welcome to you if this is your first time. Appreciate you just checking us out perhaps. Hopefully you get some good information that you can use. And certainly if you've been with me for a long time, I really appreciate you hanging in there. As usual, like and subscribe. One of these drops every week. Get across to Business for Builders VIP on Facebook. Bit of a group forming there, which is a great little community. And what else? If you want to chat with me about where business coaching and how that works, get across to EliteBusinessAdvisory.com. There's a big blue button. Hit the consultation button. Book a consultation. You can get 30 minutes with me. Complimentary coaching session, no strings attached. Let me chat with you about your business. Now, what you need to understand, if you've not heard me say it before, is this show, which has no cost to you other than your time to hang out with me and have a listen. That's where I can bring some awareness and some education, but accountability between you and me, you as the builder and me as the coach, that's where you get the biggest bang for your buck, because I'm going to try and keep you on track and keep you accountable. So get across there and check that out. Right, today, no different than any other day, steak and potatoes. Now, the last 2 weeks, if you've been watching closely, there's this process whereby I've kind of moved through a lot of the pre-construction phase. Okay, because we're very confident in how we go about building. That's not the question. The product delivery generally we're okay with, but the pre-construction phase. So I started out talking about scorecards and how we go about qualifying. Last week I talked about how we guide clients through. Today, what I'm going to talk to you about is what you can do to maintain control throughout the design, plan, and price process, hence what's written on the board behind me. So this one's going to be probably a little bit more brief, but I think it just rounds off the last couple of weeks and really just brings it into some level of clarity whereby you start to understand, what you have to do when the lead first comes in, what process you've got to guide them through, and then what you can do to maintain control, right? Last thing you want a client doing is telling you how to do the design, plan, and price process, okay? That doesn't happen on my watch. I'm the authority. I'm the builder, I'm the professional, this is how it's going to be, this is how I do it. If you don't like it, I don't know what to do about that, but I won't be working with a client that doesn't comply, okay? Now, most clients, because they come to you because you are the professional, they are expecting that you know what you're doing. So hopefully the last 2 episodes, plus this one, is going to really crystallize in your mind what you do with and from that first phone call right through to how you go through that process, minimize the friction, minimize the bad behavior, minimize the lack of productivity, and really capitalize on the benefits of having a very well-defined, coherent, and competent, complete system. Okay, so what we're talking about is maintain control. So I'm going to outline, obviously, if you look behind me here, establish clear communication channels, set clear expectations early on, use repeatable processes, repeatable systems and processes, stay on top of documentation and contracts, and then maintain regular check-ins and updates. That's a bit of an overview. So let's get after it. Right, number 1 there. So the first thing we want to do is really have that single point of contact. Now, you might say, well, Max, I'm the only point of contact, so I guess I'm it. Cool. That's good. Whereas for me, if you're like me and you have a business where I spend a lot of my time in the office, I handle everything from that contact right through to contract, all the estimating and even project management. Once they're on the go, I've got to make sure that billings are going out and people are getting paid, etc. I've, myself and my business partner, because Jed handles all the on-site. He's the construction manager. I'm the project manager. Sales, project management, that's what I do. Okay, so we've got to have set defines. Now, most of the time, give or take, most of the time we're kind of, he's on job site, I'm in the office, okay? But sometimes there's an overlap. So every time Jed goes to purchase something, we've got to make sure that if that account or wherever we're purchasing from, we've got to make sure that when he makes the purchase, that email from that supplier ends up at our account's email, or he takes a photo of it and puts it in his daily site log so I can update the purchase order, make it approved, and then create a bill out of that, and then I can either, bill the clients or whatever, but that helps with my back costing. The reason I say that is Jed never gets involved in the sales process unless he's invited. Pretty much everything up to the contract. Now, do I collaborate with him on it? Do I give him updates? Absolutely. But the set point of contact with the client is yours truly. Now, once it gets out on the site and there's construction management issues, I stay out of it. I can go and pick shit up from, the metal company where our flashings get done. No problems at all. I can bring it back to the office. Jed can pick it up. But in the event, like there was 2 weeks ago, there was an issue or an error made where a flashing was bent 90 degrees instead of having a 15% rake. I said to Jed, mate, I'm going to stay out of it. I helped him with the documentation. I fed it to him. It was on our system. And then he went and rang the person directly. The point I'm making is that if you create confusion in the minds of your homeowner clients, you're going to long-term, you're going to make your life difficult. Because whenever there's confusion, there's irritation and frustration. So do yourself a favor, clarify who the point of contact is, make it clear. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, I'm going to be your point of contact throughout all aspects of the pre-construction phase. Once it goes to construction, I hand the file off to my construction manager, my supervisor, whoever that might be, and I collaborate in the background with them, but ultimately that's the point of contact, their eyes and boots on the ground. Okay, so that's the first thing. Create a single point of contact. Right, point number 2, set clear expectations. So we want to define roles and responsibilities. Now, I've just outlined a little bit of that, okay? So at the outset of a project, so really, I think that anything that we do in pre-construction can also roll over into construction as well. So at the outset of a project, you set clear expectations with everyone involved, clients, subs, suppliers. Okay, you outline each party's responsibilities, timelines, and deliverables. What you want to do is that's going to help you, because in the event that there's something that goes a little bit pear-shaped, you need to be able to mitigate the risk as far as an overshot on the price or the cost. So in other words, if there is scope creep, you've got to be able to say your subcontractors, and this is where this system kicks in. It's like if you were my subcontractor, I'd say, I just want to let you know that every time, if you give me a quote for your scope of work, I'm going to issue a purchase order in direct reflection of that quote. Now, if you take off and do some extra work that's not been commissioned by me via a purchase order, you will not be getting paid for that. Now, out of script now, so back into the show. In other words, what I'm saying to that subcontractor is that I've got to mitigate my risk. I've got to limit the scope creep. You don't just get to go and do work arbitrarily and unilaterally make a decision to go and increase what you're getting paid. Doesn't happen, right? Now, suppliers for the most part, of course they understand that. The minute I started talking to suppliers about purchase orders and making it abundantly clear that they are not to basically invoice me for anything that doesn't have a PO, they're sticklers because they understand what's going on. If they go and sell me something without a PO number, I am not obligated to pay for it. Now, that's not exactly the most, proper thing to do. But at the end of the day, if I'm trying to cost engineer and protect my profit, they are the rules that have got to be in place. So there's your roles and responsibilities. Subcontractors have got a responsibility to come and talk to me if there's potentially a blowout in scope and cost, as do suppliers. I mean, they just won't put the stuff on a truck unless there's a PO. As simple as that, a purchase order number. Okay, right. And obviously we want to set the baseline. Again, here we go, accountability. Okay, and that's what I'm making that subcontractor accountable. He cannot just go and arbitrarily, unilaterally, go and charge me more money for scope and then expect me to swallow it, because I'm not doing it. Okay, right. So next point, use repeatable systems and processes. Well, what we need to do is create SOPs, baby. That's what it comes down to. Develop repeatable processes for quoting, communicating with clients, ordering materials, managing subcontractors. Okay, this ensures consistency and minimizes errors, guys. Any time that something has cost you money that you didn't expect was because of an error, an oversight, a mistake. Okay, somebody didn't catch it, right? And so what we're trying to do is develop a framework. Like for me, the client goes through certain gates. And the client, most of the time, will follow me through. Very rarely, if any, does a client get in front of me. Like, I'm the guy, okay? Like, they follow me. I know where I'm going. This is what I do for a living, okay? And so when we've got that all set out in an SOP format, I've mentioned before, if you're an EBA client, if you're a coaching client of mine, you will get enrolled just in our SOP program for builders, where there's over 400 standard operating procedures through 9 departments. Okay, now, they're all about, I would say, 80% acceptable, because you and me, we think differently, a little bit. Okay, so there's certain SOPs or standard operating procedures. You go, you know what, that's about 75% good. Max, can you just send me the Word document so I can edit that to make it suit my business? And I'm like, there it is, 9.1.1.4, send. There you go. And then that is some of the benefit, because what I'm trying to do, I realized that developing systems, so what I was doing initially was going, hey, you should have systems. Nobody had systems. And then I went, hey, this is how you build a system. And even after that, nobody built a system. And I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to develop the systems that would suit a builder. And if you're interested in doing that and you're not an EBA client, okay, you know, that course, that access to that for 12 months is available. Okay, so if you're interested in that, maybe I could sell them one SOP at a time. So maybe it's like $7.50 US something for a per what's the name? Okay, anyway, I digress. But SOPs, nonetheless, and this is where some of my clients enjoy it, because they're like, well, it's already made, mostly. Okay, so there's never any hang up now around SOP. So they go, you know, if I get into a meeting with a client and they're telling me about where the wheels fell off the wagon, and I'm like, where's the system for that? And they go, well, I haven't got one. I'm like, all right, well, it's going to be in one of these 9 departments inside of the EBA SOP system. So where is it? Which one does it fit into? It's in operations, right? Is it a quality assurance checklist? Right. Is that a Google form? Is there a link there that's inside of your job management software that at the end of the frame stage, that framing carpenter can go in there and tick it off and make sure it all's plumb and straight and square and bottom plates nailed down and, you know, all the walls are tied off, etc. Right? So this is where we've got to maintain the control and reduce the stress on us by way of creating systems. Okay. Yep, so it'll create structure, it'll manage the workload, it'll help you to manage the workload, streamline tasks and ensure that key steps are not missed. Right, so next thing we want to do is stay on top of documentation and contracts. And of course, us builders, we really love paperwork, don't we, folks? No pun intended. Ensure contracts are clear and detailed. Right. Ensure contracts. Now, the thing is, we just think about contracts, gosh, and detailed. We just think about one, contract, but what I find is that, I talked about in the last episode, this second story edition we're doing, which is almost $1 million. I had to be very clear, not only in, we can do that and, it's this many square feet and this is how much it's going to cost. The other conversation I had, which I think I had the initial conversation right here, and as I'm talking to the homeowner, I am actually doing math on the whiteboard. And I took a photo of it because it was that moment in time where I was literally, as I was having the conversation, I was doing the math on the whiteboard whilst I was talking to him. That was the first part of that phone call. The second part, okay, because that ultimately represents the contract, the scope of work and the cost to build, okay, the contract price. That's what you and I think about the most. However, when I went out there, I walked around the house and I thought, okay, this is what we're going to have to do. And I said to the homeowner, I said, here's the deal. I'm going to do all the design and plan for you up front for cost plus 10%. See, that in itself is another contract. So when the architect went and spent $2,500, I've got to go and give him a bill plus my 10%. Then when the engineer does the first part, I've got to send him the bill for that plus the 10%. See, so the rules of engagement were clearly outlined, okay? Ensure contracts are clear and detailed. There was no mistake. And then I'd back that up with an email, right? And so it had to be crystal clear when and where and how the money was going to flow. Because nothing will drive a wedge between you and your client than a dispute over scope and finance. So I think probably, these are all important, but I think this one here, staying on top of your documentation contract. The other thing I do is the minute I get a payment from a client, I go back into my system and I apply the payment because JobTread, which we use, syncs or pushes across to QuickBooks, which our accountant will use to do our bookkeeping and annual reporting, right? Tax returns, etc. Okay? And so what I do is now in some cases I've got, if I'm doing a cost plus, which is a raw pain in the ass, and I'm not a big fan of it, and every time I do it, and we don't do too many of them. This is a client who I worked for about 7 years ago, and he asked me if he could do it that way, and I'm like, fine. Okay, but what happens was I send him a materials invoice and I send him a labor invoice, and then he gives me one check. Okay, so now I've got to stay on top of my documentation. So how do I do that? Well, I go in there and I say it was a check, this was the check number, and it was a part payment of the total amount. That's got to be in, because I know my accountant is going to ask questions about that. Max, I've only got this one. I've got a deposit of $9,700, but I've got an invoice, one for $9,300 and the other one for for $400 or whatever. And so I've got to I've got to stay on top of my documentation, because down the track, if I do too many of those, I'm going to have a questionnaire from my accountant a mile long. Now, she's charging at the rate of God knows what, $110 an hour or something. Do yourself a favor, stay on top of your documentation. Make sure there's an overshoot on detail. Okay, don't be a tightwad when it comes to adding information when you are applying that. Now, if you're just getting a check and banking it and then just putting it somewhere, like that is not staying on top of your documentation. That's a big challenge, because what happens is you are your accountant / bookkeeper's largest challenge if you've just got a box of receipts and your business, you're not serious about running a business. So another reason why you've got to stay on top of your documentation, because if you want your business to grow, you need to be able to demonstrate at the level you're at that you can actually maintain it clearly. Like my bookkeepers and accountants are more than satisfied with how I run my bookkeep or my books, let's say. So when I don't do the bookkeeping, I outsource that, but I make it as crystal clear and as obvious when it comes to, if I purchase something on a credit card, that's for my personal use, right? And I don't advise that, because that can get you in trouble. But every time I make a personal purchase on my business credit card, I write drawings on the receipt, and my bookkeeper knows where to put that. That's income to me personally. That's got nothing to do with the company. Okay, so it gets organized so that it's not confused between what's a business expense, right? Again, just try and separate your business and personal. I'm not saying that's the way you should do it. It's just in the event that I get stuck and I've got to use that credit card, that's what I do. Okay, right. I think that's about it. Right, maintain. Let me see. Ensure contracts are clear and in the design and pricing phase. Be sure to have well-documented contracts that clearly outline the project scope, materials, timelines, payment schedules. Okay. Maintain regular check-ins and updates. Scheduled progress meetings. I don't know if you can see this, Dom, but we'll put it up here anyway. Scheduled progress meetings. Now, the reason that we do not discount the importance of this is because nobody likes to be left in the dark, okay? We all like updates. We all like to know what's going on. And so it's important that we have it built into our week or our month. I wouldn't say a month, but our week. I like to over-communicate. I get told often too much information, like just, yep, got it, understood, right? And so, I'm always about the micro, because I think the devil is in the detail. And it's just the way I think. My attention to detail, when I walk around this office, most people would go, hey, it's a lovely office. There's certain things where I know that aren't finished the way that I would like them, but for the most part, people don't notice, okay? So for me, when it comes to communication, now that I know that my client wants an update every Friday, even if I've got to ring my homeowner and say, engineer's still on it, no feedback from him yet, but we are positioned. I might say something along the lines of, how are you doing with the selection sheet or the selection? Something like that. Encourage some conversation two-way, but make sure that they know that I haven't forgotten about them, because they're quite a big ticket client, so I've got to look after them. So hold regular meetings also with your team and subs, as well as your clients, to ensure that everyone is in alignment and that the project is on track. Now, when I say project, it is the pre-construction phase is a hell of a project. And I think for the most of us, the level of discomfort in the pre-construction phase is significant. We're very at home, digging dirt and pouring concrete and building frames, aren't we? Yep, this is yes, right? But when it comes to we just go, I just want to get to the deal. I just want to start building. I just need the approved plan so I can go and start ordering materials, right? And it's this massive hurdle which we don't systemize because we don't give it the respect that we ought. And we don't then look at it and go, right, this is a project. Like the project is the project, but the pre-construction project is a great challenge. And we need to be, if we can get a system that's attached to it that works, all of a sudden you will enjoy pre-construction as much as you enjoy construction. Trust me. Right, okay, we've got to include in the status updates, issue resolution. So if there's any issues, we need to address those. Don't sleep on those. Using AI to get an opinion about what's the best way forward is certainly something that you can use to your advantage to declutter the worry and the stress that's on you to help you come up with a resolution. Okay, and then of course the ability to adjust timelines on the fly is certainly part of that as well. Clients need to know. So if it ever comes to a point where you think you've lost some time, you've got to look at the situation and go, can I generate a builder generated or a contractor generated change order to bring it to the attention, a no cost change order, to bring it to the attention of the homeowner, to let them know that the contract's it has to be extended by 4 weeks for matters outside my control. We have to communicate at the highest level. Remember, lack of communication is the highest level of disrespect. Okay, if you're in a long-standing relationship with a life partner, try not talking to him or her for 3 or 4 days and let me know how that goes. Won't work out at all. Right, in conclusion, maintaining control in the design plan and price process requires structure, clear communication and consistency by establishing clear communication channels, setting expectations early, using repeatable systems, keeping proper documentation and maintaining regular check-ins. You can ensure your projects run smoothly, both the pre-construction and the delivery or the construction phase. These strategies not only help in managing your subs, suppliers, and your clients, but it will also improve the overall project delivery, business efficiency, and your enjoyment of running your company with the potential to see it go 5x, 10x over the next 5 years, okay? Like and subscribe, get across to Business for Builders VIP. Leave us a couple of nice words, a bit of a rating if you like on wherever you watch podcasts. Email me, max@elitebusinessadvisory.com if you've got a couple of questions. And be sure to get across to elitebusinessadvisory.com. Hit the book a consultation button for your complimentary coaching session. And I look forward to chatting with you in that 30 minutes just to sort of see what we can do with your business going forward. Go and build a kick-ass business. See you in the next episode. Cheers.